Here's a Lenovo ThinkPad laptop computer. There are really no dead giveaways that this isn't a brand new model, except a few. For example, the old Lenovo logo. But otherwise, this computer still looks pretty modern in my opinion. It's still in decent conditions, it has few scratches, and while it's not the thinnest, lightest laptop, it's decently thin and light. With a good array of ports, like two USB 3.0 ports on this side, mini display port, headphone jack, SD card slot, another USB 3.0 port, gigabit Ethernet, and even VGA. The only important thing it's missing is an optical drive. But I've already made a video about this computer in general, and most of the things in that video still stand today. This video is about my experience with this computer after owning it for 5 years. It still opens up very easily with one finger, and it still looks stunning. You read the title of the video, so you already know that this is a ThinkPad T440s. This model is 10 years old now. I bought it used in February 2019, and it's still my main computer today. It's not my most powerful one. My most powerful computer is actually a year older, the HP Compaq Pro 6300 desktop PC. But because this is still powerful enough for me, and a laptop is more convenient for me to use, this is my main computer. One sign of wear is here on the touchpad. There's a sticker on it, and it started to wear out. That's not a stain, you can't clean it up. I could maybe take off the entire sticker, but it's no big deal. This generation of ThinkPads came with a touchpad that had the buttons integrated, not separate like here. However, I replaced it because I like having separate mouse buttons for use with the track point, which is that red thing on the keyboard. And yes, I do use the track point very often, not all the time, but usually. It's quite convenient, especially when you have to move from typing to pointing, much quicker than using a trackpad or external mouse. And it's much easier to click or scroll when the buttons are separate, instead of being integrated all in one button. And this one is the cheaper Alps trackpad instead of the recommended Synaptics one, but I had no problems with it, other than this sign of wear. The trackpad isn't fantastic, but because I don't use it a lot, it's okay. As for the keyboard, it's chiclet, but probably one of the best chiclet keyboards you can have in a laptop. It has a lot of key travel, and the keys are quite solid. The only thing I don't like about it is the lack of media keys. They could have had them up here, but instead it has some functions designed for Windows 8. Open settings, search, the equivalent of Alt-Tab, and the apps menu, which were quite difficult to access in that OS. The keyboard is also backlit, we'll show it after I turn the computer on. This example of T440s is one of the higher spec ones, with the Core i7 4600U. That's a 4th generation Core i7. And U means ultra low power, so it's not the best. For example, the older Core i5 in my desktop computer is more powerful, as I hinted at earlier, but it still holds up today. This one also has fingerprint reader and a 1080p IPS display, which I'm still impressed by. If you buy a brand new laptop with a 14-inch 1080p IPS display, it pretty much looks identical to this 10-year-old one, so I'm still very satisfied about that. That's probably the best thing about this laptop. This computer has two batteries, an internal one, which you have to remove the bottom case to get to it, and it has a space for an external one. This is its original battery from February 2014, so just 10 years old. It's hard to believe that 2014 was 10 years ago. Nowadays, this plus the internal battery do about 2 to 3 hours of battery life, which isn't a lot, but for 10-year-old batteries, that's not bad at all. I also got this aftermarket battery. It says it's for the X240, which is a smaller ThinkPad of the same generation, but it also works on the T440s. I bought this one in November 2022, and it still holds up fine today, even though I haven't used it very much. But when I've used it, it's worked great. I get about 6 hours of battery life with this one, and it's significantly thicker. Compare that with the original battery at the top. At home, I use this computer with only the internal battery connected, always plugged in with battery charge threshold enabled, so the battery is not always at 100%. Leaving a lithium-ion rechargeable battery at 100% for a very long time will shorten its life. You also have to remove the bottom case if you want to change the hard drive. I still have its original drive, which is a 256GB SATA SSD by Samsung. Still holds up well. Also, this one is maxed out at 12GB of RAM. It has 4GB soldered into the motherboard, and I added an additional 8. It can't accept 16GB sticks, and it uses 1600 MHz DDR3 RAM, which sounds slow compared to modern computers, but once again, it's fast enough. Alright, now let's turn on this 10-year-old beast and see how well it's aged. Let's take a quick look at the BIOS setup. So here are some of the specs. This computer does not have a dedicated GPU. It only has Intel integrated graphics, which is Intel HD Graphics 4400. It's perfectly fine for watching videos up to 1080p at 60 frames per second, even online. It can't handle 4K videos very well, but I don't have any of those. It has a pre-installed license for Windows 8 Pro, which I used to do the free upgrade to Windows 10 Pro back when the free upgrade was available. And the BIOS is fully updated. As you can see, the version is from March 2020. I have secure boot disabled. Because if we go to the boot menu and start from the default EFI entry of the hard drive instead of Windows Boot Manager, you can see I also have macOS installed on this computer. I've also done a video about it, but it was a video about Mojave and Big Sur, two different videos. A while back, I installed macOS Monterey on this computer, which is the version after Big Sur, because I found someone else's OpenCore EFI setup for this computer on that OS. Otherwise, I would have stayed on Big Sur because I rarely use macOS on this computer. In fact, I was considering removing it to free up some drive space, but for now I still have it. And I haven't been interested in newer versions, at least not on this computer. I've tried macOS up to version Sonoma on my 2009 MacBook Pro, which is older and much less powerful, but it's a little easier to set up with OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Anyway, here's macOS Monterey on this ThinkPad T440s. It's recognized as a MacBook Pro from early 2015, even though this generation of ThinkPad would be equal to a MacBook Pro of 2013 or 2014. But those computers can only support up to macOS Big Sur officially, version 11. So to install macOS Monterey version 12, you have to spoof the Mac model to a newer one. And there's my Windows partition, which is what I use 99% of the time, or even more. In fact, let's boot to it now. It says low battery, but we'll take the risk. I'll plug it in later. Now it's starting up Windows 10. The Windows logo is stretched, but it's starting up in EFI mode. Thanks to the fingerprint reader, we can log in more quickly. There's this charger. It uses a proprietary plug. When you plug it in, the power light blinks a few times. You can see some of the programs I have installed there. This is the Windows partition. Not a lot of free space, but it's not a very large partition. I back it up to an external drive a few times a week with Macrium Reflect. Here is some system info again. It says Windows 10 Pro, version 22H2, which is the latest one. Installed in April 2021. That's when I last did one of those large Windows updates that reinstalls the operating system. However, this is still running the original Windows 10 installation I did on this computer when I got it. Back then, I think it was version 1809. And I upgraded to the newer versions over the years. And after whatever version was the latest one in April 2021, the upgrade to what I have right now, 22H2, was smaller, and those smaller upgrades do not change the install date. We can see that Windows is updated as well, and that it doesn't like Windows 11. I now disabled the TPM in the BIOS for macOS compatibility purposes, and I know about the Windows 10 end of support. I'm not sure what I'll do after then. I know you can bypass the requirements to install Windows 11, but you have to do that every single year, and I don't want to do that on my main computer. I'm still testing Windows 11 on my 2009 MacBook Pro, and it works great. There are a few things I dislike about that OS, but the fact it doesn't officially work on here just because the CPU isn't new enough, even though it does have TPM 2.0, makes me not want to install it here. Even though I'm still perfectly happy with this computer and its performance, and it doesn't show its age very much, I might get a newer one before the Windows 10 support ends. I doubt I'll move to a Linux distribution. I have daily driven Linux many times, but I keep coming back to Windows because I don't mind having a closed source OS. I'm not looking at the source code of Linux and modifying it to suit my needs. And the Windows 10 or even 11 user interface is okay. As you can see, I set up several shortcuts on the right, which you can kinda do on Windows 11 as well. So I talked about the screen, which is fantastic. I don't watch a lot of movies, so the 16:9 aspect ratio for a computer isn't the best, but since it's high enough resolution, it's acceptable. The webcam is 720p. That one is not fantastic, but it's good. The microphone quality isn't great, as you can hear right now, but it's okay for online calls, which I've done. You can improve it a tiny bit by enabling the voice recognition sound effect. The keyboard backlight is a little too strong in my opinion. This is the low brightness setting and has a lot of backlight bleed. I've gotten used to it now, but at first it was a little blinding. I never used the high brightness setting. Of course, it's difficult to tell on video, but in real life these white LEDs are quite bright. I don't like that it doesn't have a caps lock indicator, but when you turn caps lock on, you can set this indicator to stay on the screen until you turn it off. Okay, it's in the display properties. You can go to advanced display settings, display adapter properties. Then here you go to screen configuration and you can change the settings there. So now if I turn caps lock off, the indicator goes away. The speakers are great quality. They are on these two corners facing the bottom, and they sound great when you turn on the Dolby equalizer settings, Dolby Digital Plus. I don't use the presets, I just use a custom preset and everything's set to flat and these settings turned off, but those alone improve the sound a lot.
Next door's teenagers are having a party, playing all the current music and being generally cool. My dad links his phone to their Bluetooth to play Agadoo, and they can't turn it off. Next door's teenagers are having a party, playing all the current music and being generally cool. My dad links his phone to their Bluetooth to play Agadoo, and they can't turn it off. Agadoo doo doo, push pineapple, shake the tree.
Another nice thing about this computer is its wireless capabilities. It even has a 3G modem. You can put a SIM card in it and use mobile data. However, 3G is being phased out in most of the world. And the only SIM card I have is the one in my smartphone, so I could just use personal hotspot with it to the computer. As for Wi-Fi, it's dual band, which means it supports 2.4 and 5 GHz networks, and it supports up to Wi-Fi AC, also known as Wi-Fi 5. Now we have Wi-Fi 6 and even Wi-Fi 7, but Wi-Fi 5 was the latest at the time and it's still quite good today. Theoretical transfer speeds both up and down, are up to 866 megabits per second. I've never get such fast speeds, but it is quite fast anyway. The biggest problem I've had with this laptop? The headphone jack broke. In case you didn't know, I require a headphone jack in my devices, even my smartphone. My main phone is still a first generation iPhone SE, which has nothing first generation about it besides the name, because it's the last iPhone with a headphone jack. Also, I like smaller phones, otherwise I would have used an iPhone 6S, which is from the same generation but larger. Anyway, I still use that phone as my main one today, and works fine. However, to make up for it, the headphone jack on my computer broke. It doesn't look broken. I can plug something in, and it clicks just fine. But it acts as if nothing is plugged in. Still plays stuff from the speakers. I'm not sure, I think a joint inside is broken or something. I took the bottom cover off and took a look around. Maybe you could solder in a new jack, but it's probably a lot of work and you could risk damaging the motherboard. So instead I bought this USB sound card. It has a headphone jack and microphone jack, and I just plug it into this USB port. And it seamlessly switches between speakers and headphones. Here it is, USB audio device. It takes up one USB port, but at least I have the other two on the other side. So it's not like a headphone jack adapter on a smartphone which takes up the charging port. So it's still an inconvenience, but much less so than not having the headphone jack on a smartphone. And one last little problem I had is that sometimes this computer crashes when going to sleep mode. Like it just sits at a blank screen for a few minutes, running the fan at high speed, not maximum speed, but a little higher than normal, and then it just shuts off. And when I turn it back on, it does a cold start, as if I'd held the power button to force shut it down, instead of putting it to sleep. All drivers are updated. I could see in blue screen view that there was a crash with driver power state failure. Now there are no dump files because I recently ran disk cleanup, which deleted those files. Around once every 3 months this happens. Since last year it started happening a little more frequently. I have enabled hybrid sleep and hibernate. Having them disabled doesn't seem to make a difference. Let's try putting it to sleep now. And if the dot of the eye in ThinkPad starts blinking slowly, it is in sleep mode. Now I don't know if you can hear it, but the fan is running a little faster now. Holy shit, I can't believe I caught it on video. It actually crashed after putting it to sleep mode. So let's start it back up and see if there's a log for the blue screen. Even though it doesn't show a blue screen. Even if I put it to sleep while leaving the screen open, it doesn't show anything. Okay, let's try opening the blue screen view again. And there is a brand new crash. February 26, 2024 at 2:45. Right now it's 2:48, so very recent crash, and it's about driver power state failure caused by ntoskernel.exe. Really not sure what's up with this, but it does this sometimes, and there's nothing I can do about it, I'm afraid. It's not that frequent, but that and the broken headphone jack are the main reasons why I'm even considering getting a newer laptop. And so there we have it, my lovely ThinkPad T440s, still going strong as my main computer. Like I said, I'm considering replacing it with something newer, but not so soon. Why should I replace this computer just because it's not new anymore? I mean, it wasn't new when I bought it, and now it's gotten older, but it's not too old yet. It still fulfills pretty much all of my needs from a computer. And when I need a little extra oomph, I use my desktop computer. If you don't upgrade your computers frequently, I'd love to hear your story about an older computer that you still use today. As for this video, I think it's done. If I forget any details, I'll add them to the description. And I've edited this whole video using this very computer. I'll render it on my faster PC just to save time, but editing this video here without proxy clips has been a breeze. The video preview lags a little bit when the timeline is scrolling and during some transitions, but otherwise it's flawless. Thank you for watching.